I gave a talk on brain and memory in San Diego. And it was 叶思雅医师要我今天来这里。But there was a request saying that strictly memory and the brain is no application. Therefore, today, the first part, I'm going to give you the overview of a current study, recent research on the brain and mind, and brain and memory in particular. And then the other part, with a request from the president here, asking me to speak application. So I would like to talk about the recent development in the research on Alzheimer's diseases. So today my talk will be two parts. One is a brain and memory, and another is a clinical application for Alzheimer's disorders, because this is the very preponderant disorders. And the reason I list all this, my affiliation, is that my research and my teaching and my clinical activities are from various colleagues of mine. So it is not just my own work. So this is a summary of many institutions' work today I'd like to present. I hope you all can hear in the back. Is that okay? Okay, good. So let's start. Essentially, this is a summary of the functional organization of a memory system. When information about what is going through the cortical stream into perirenal cortex, and then the where is actually through the parahippocampal cortex. And then these two information got into hippocampus. So today we need to remember three main areas: where and what. And so this slide shows that the when and where integrate into hippocampus, and from there getting into prefrontal cortex. So this is the essential mechanism, but this we don't usually remember. What is this all about? So I would like to start with the main focus of the memory is the hippocampus. The hippocampus is known to be involved in the complex process of forming and storing the memory is in the hippocampus. Now, several studies have set new light on the contribution of the hippocampus to memory. The many experiments have shown that the hippocampus is critical to learning, remembering, and characterizing space, providing context to experiences and other associated sequential or logical relationship. 所以，看起来吼 ，hippocampus 是真要紧伫脑的内底。佮继续 hippocampus 吼，这个记忆吼，记忆力啊，因为有 hippocampus 的关系啊，我们就有 connected to memory meaning. In other words, the hippocampus might be connected the memory of your first day at school with the information about the physical surrounding, the smell, and the sound of the event. 所以细汉去学校遐记忆拢记伫 hippocampus. Though this is the diagram of hippocampus, so hippocampus is the area like the shape is like it calls a highway hippocampus 这个形吼。the one which is actually flickering is the hippocampus. One way to look at the hippocampus that in regard to memory is to examine a person with damaged hippocampus. If a hippocampus is damaged, then we'll see what happened. Many people, we learn a lot from damaged hippocampus, have anterograde amnesia. They can remember the distant past, but cannot form new memories. So this is anterograde amnesia. They can, however, learn new skills. Then the stress and memory are intermingled with the fact of if you are under stress, there is an oversecretion of stress hormone, adversely affect brain function, especially memory. So stage fright actually due to stress. Too much cortisol can prevent the brain from laying down a new memory or from accessing already existing memories. Researchers have shown that sustained stress can damage the hippocampus, the part of the limbic brain which we actually described for a while. These effects are associated with structural changes in hippocampal neurons. The CARP is a group of hormones known as corticosteroids or cortisol. And during stress period, the adrenal glands release adrenaline. And if the feeling of stress persists, the adrenal then release cortisol. Once in the brain, cortisol remains much longer than adrenaline, where it continues to affect brain cells. Excessive cortisol can make it difficult to think or retrieve long-term memories. That's why people get befuddled and confused in severe crisis. Then the next important organ, small, but it's called amygdala. The amygdala is involved in memory consolidation or the combining of memory of made memories. Memory comes into hippocampus, is not immediately consolidated. After something is learned or experienced, a long-term memory for the event is not formed instantaneously. So short-term memory and long-term memory are different. Information regarding the event is slowly assimilated into long-term potential lifelong storage over time, possibly through long-term strengthening of nerve impulses. Recent studies show that despite the amygdala not being a long-term memory storage site, and learning can occur without it, one of its roles is to regulate memory consolidation in other brain regions. So other brain regions, memory storage actually related to amygdala. So here is the hippocampus and amygdala, its relationship in terms of anatomical structure. Then another important thing is that we remember our emotional experiences. So the amygdala has long been linked with the person's emotion. Feeling, this is the recent new research in this area elaborate the amygdala's function. The region of the brain where memories of our past are supported and retrieved also serve as a hub, the link of familiar music, memory, as well as emotion. So Dr. A, you remember so many memory. Essentially, it's related to emotional memory. By hearing a familiar piece of music, call back memory of a particular person or a place or emotion when you are very young, pursuing your lover. You remember not just that person, but remember the smell, remember the everything happened at that occasion. This is a very well experienced by all of us. then sleep and memory. This is a very paradoxical. People feel that you shouldn't sleep and go to study very hard and go to examination. You remember when you are a student in a medical school, you don't sleep and try to remember everything. After the exam, all those totally disappeared. It's because during the sleep, it consolidates our memory. So in Germany, recent study showing that the brain did better during sleep than during wakefulness at preventing attempts to corrupt a memory. Essentially, during the sleep, the memory consolidation actually happened. Then without the sleep, many other memories interfere with the one which you try to consolidate. So as memory stored in the hippocampus do not gel immediately, learning a second item immediately afterwards may distort the original memory. We did the experiment at Harvard School's memory, divided into two groups. One who we teach them how to solve the problem and let them sleep afterwards. Another group teach them to remember those but no sleep. On the following day, with the examination, those who took the sleep examination perfect, those who didn't sleep, the examination result is not as good as those who sleep. So sleep is not tell your kids, you are always sleeping, you don't study. Sleep and memory is very important. By sleeping immediately after learning an item, research shows that one stores this new item better by not allowing new information to disrupt the information which you learn. So this is the basic for the memory and recent publication in the area of memory. Now I'd like to shift with a request from this association asking me to talk about how these could be applied to our recent concern on memory, dementia, and particularly Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's diseases actually affect possibly us, affect possibly our relatives. We have to take care of them. And this is a very important illness. The Alzheimer's disease causes brain changes that gradually get worse. It is the most common cause of dementia, a group of brain disorders that cause progressive loss of intellectual and social skill, severe enough to interfere with day-to-day life. In Alzheimer's disease, brain cells related to memory and judgment and other brain function, as I described before, degenerate and die, causing a steady decline in memory and mental function. So it is estimated by World Health Organization that there are currently about 18 million people worldwide with Alzheimer's diseases. This figure is projected to nearly double 34 million by 2025. All of us, if we live long enough, will suffer from Alzheimer's. So don't think that I'm so good. I take all the nutrition and everything, exercise, and therefore we are not going to suffer from Alzheimer's. The incidence of Alzheimer's rapidly increase after age 70 and 80 and 90. So to live longer is fine, but to live healthy, don't suffering from dementia. That is the important things we have to pay attention to. So what is Alzheimer's disease? Current Alzheimer's disease modification and management strategy can temporarily, not permanently, improve symptoms, maximize function, and maintain independence for a period of time. It is also important to seek social services and tap into your support network coming to this meeting to see your friends. Social support is very important. Research efforts aim to discover treatment that prevent Alzheimer or slow its progression is very, very gradual, very slow. So the current research interest with the national and international studies, we also learned that the treatment of Alzheimer seemed to be not very effective. We already found out that why. Why is that we are studying those whose brain cells have already died, most of them. And to recover those cells would be very, very difficult. So the field is now moving into early detection before the onset of real Alzheimer clinical diagnosis. It's already diagnosed as Alzheimer. It's already too late. So now the study moving into before the symptom develop, clinician can give you the diagnosis of Alzheimer. That is the time the intervention should take place. Now, so for all of us to look into us or our relatives, we need to recognize the early signs of Alzheimer. So these we always experience, forgetting significant dates and events. But this we all experience. But if once or twice, that's fine. But it's always this happened recently, we have to pay attention to. Next is losing track of numbers, having trouble handling money or dealing with numbers. So this is a very important thing to remember. So if your husband start to show these kind of sign, please just pay attention to. That is a time to start to intervene. Next, flustered by routine activities, getting lost on the way to your favorite store. I去 shopping， 都唔知道到一间去，去我唔知道要哪转来。Another one, if your dear husband drive a car and always hitting the brakes, meaning that the judgment of the distance between his own car and the front car seems to be not right. So hitting brake more often. But if you learn how to drive your car, always hitting the brake, that doesn't count. It's only when you drive a car smoothly and start to hit quite often that we should pay attention to. Misplacing things more frequently, particularly losing car keys. And you forget where your car key is, and somehow when you open the refrigerator and find, oh, my key is in the refrigerator. So this is the very interesting phenomena we have to pay attention to. Poor decision making. Food is burning on the stove and you don't know what to do. And also very bad investment. Or in the middle of good marriage, suddenly go out to have extramarital affairs. So those are very poor judgment, okay? Not knowing the consequence of those behavior. So become more withdrawn, less social. The cooking class you used to love isn't so much fun anymore. And the diabetes, insulin resistance, and high blood sugar may lead to complications that damage brain cells as well as a blood vessel that bring oxygen and nutrients to your brain, raising your risk of Alzheimer's. So essentially, for all of you who are trained in medical school, two important things neuropathology try to find is the plaques and tangles, neurofibrillary tangles, And these are shown here with a plaque. Today, it is not pathology lecture, so I'm not going to go into you. You already seen those in your medical student era. And this is the tangles. Now, we still don't know what is the real cause of Alzheimer's. Scientists believe that for most people, Alzheimer's disease results from a combination of genetic, lifestyle, and environmental factors that affect the brain over time. Less than 5% of the time, Alzheimer's is caused by specific genetic changes that guarantee a person will develop the diseases. Those are very early onset. We already found several genes in the family, and all those are very early onset. Usually, for the Alzheimer's age of onset is after age 55, 65, and 75. So those early onset one may have a genetic determinant. While the causes of Alzheimer's are not yet fully understood, its effect on the brain is clear. Alzheimer's disease damages and kills brain cells. Those cells which I'm talking about, hippocampus, various areas, parahippocampus, and also amygdala. So you can see that the Alzheimer's patient become apathetic, and he cannot make a judgment. That is the prefrontal also affected. Essentially in Alzheimer's, all the brain cells are affected. So risk factors and preventive intervention for Alzheimer's diseases. Many studies have investigated risk factors for Alzheimer's diseases. The most recent one, the meeting called by National Institute of Health of the United States, found that of all the publications, there are no sufficient evidence to support the association of any particular modifiable factor with risk of cognitive decline for affective Alzheimer's diseases. There are many speculations, but there is no convincing evidence. There is the national and international study, and to try to find the treatment and intervention. But there are certain other diseases which may affect the risk of developing Alzheimer's. Diabetes, mellitus, high cholesterol in midlife, and current tobacco usage associated with increased risk of Alzheimer's. Now, already previous speaker already mentioned about the diet. Diet seems to be very important. It seems to the researcher, those who live in the Mediterranean area seem to have, those diets seem to be much healthier because they eat much fish and don't eat much meat, animal meat, and the folic acid intake, low or moderate alcohol intake, cognitive activities, and physical activity were associated with decreased risk. If one starts to develop the early signs of Alzheimer's, don't ask that person to stop doing things. Encourage these people to participate and to do more exercise, not just physical exercise, but brain exercise. Those are very important to essentially reduce the rapid deterioration of mental function. The quality of evidence was low for all of this association. The NIH current report by convening all the experts in this area, taking into consideration all NIH funded the project, the group got together saying there is no conclusive evidence of which one is definitely causing the deterioration and the death of nerve cells. The conclusion of that report saying that insufficient evidence exists to draw firm conclusion on the association of any modifiable factors with risk of Alzheimer's diseases. It's very pessimistic. But we have to live with those who suffer. As a doctor, you have to help those who are suffering from Alzheimer's. So there are many references here. I actually, based on this, it's not just my own research. There are many, many references which is here. You may hear the recent publication which caused a lot of sensation, but there is no conclusive evidence. Some of you have heard that insulin treatment, nasal spray, just published in one of the neurology journal, saying that the nasal spray of the insulin may help the mild cognitive deficit. But actually, the need to have a better, bigger sample, and need to have a well-controlled study to really justify that is the treatment. So this is the, and there are many drugs, many drugs which have been utilized to treat cognitive deficit, but no one is now conclusive saying that this is it. So more research needs to be done. So in conclusion, I say, of all the NIH, US government, spending so much money on the Alzheimer, we have not come up to grasp with what, if today I tell you, I already found something, I'm lying to you. I'm honestly telling you that lots of researchers are trying to see what we can do. The only conclusion now is that we have to do study on those who, before developing the illness, those who already given the diagnosis of Alzheimer's, to study them, it's already too late. So now there is the one disorder called MCI. Neurologists all know, the mild cognitive deficit. So that is the subject of the study. Or even before that, the selection of the population of the study should be paid attention to. So today I just give you some of the overview. To talk about Alzheimer's would take a long, long time to really show you all the references which I listed. So I think I'll stop here. Yes?
I mean, it's very important to have early detection of Alzheimer's disease. Is any lab like the blood test or urine test, available now to detect early?
Okay, no valid reliable